Good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are all enjoying your new year. Happy New Year to those of you whom I haven't met or, well, in person or online. And I hope that you all are busy, perhaps enlightening yourselves with the knowledge, well, useful knowledge for beneficial purposes instead of malevolence, of course, throughout the past year and for this year as well. And as I have promised, for tonight I will be elaborating on the first chapter of Steven Pinker's book, Enlightenment Now, which is really a summary or sort of a thesis or defense for reason, science, humanism, and progress, the four main themes of the Enlightenment. So, if you guys haven't heard of the term Enlightenment, what does it mean? You know, people tend to be confused, and we just use the word enlightenment somehow in a casual manner, for example, in religion, you know, or psychology, or especially Buddhism. So enlightenment in this sense isn't to say that you aren't that you're sort of somebody who's ignorant, you know, of what's within the intellectual sphere or the education sphere, like so what the Enlightenment really means is, as Kant, philosopher Immanuel Kant, put it, the foundational demand of freedom of thought and speech. And it is thus the liberation of the conscience from dogma or formulas of religions or political authority. Hence, oppression in itself in all of these political, religious, social forms, they don't contribute to the emergence of the Enlightenment. Now, Pinker started the chapter by elaborating how Kant and author David Dosch quoted that if we dare to understand our limits, progress is possible in all fields, whether that's scientific, political, and moral. Optimism is the key or theory that advocates all failures or evils that were made due to insufficient knowledge, and knowing that it will always be infinitely far from complete. An optimistic civilization is open and not afraid to innovate and is based on the tradition of criticism. Institutions keep improving, and the most important knowledge they embody is knowledge of how to detect and eliminate errors. So that quote alone, that long quote, elaborates the key definition of what the Enlightenment is. And of course, we must not forget that another basis for the emergence of the Enlightenment is the new convention, the new constructive, a systemic kind of hierarchical order using the basis of reason to run things, instead of holy books, scriptures. And through the basis of democracy, the basis of mutual collaboration, beneficial cooperation, and the sharing, well, specialization, which I will elaborate in the later part of this video. So, as I've said before, the Enlightenment aims to introduce a new understanding of human condition instead of relying on the basis of war or justice from religion. The four themes are tied together. First, reason. Second, science. Third, humanism. And the fourth, progress. Reason is the key or standard tool in understanding the world, according to PINKER, in repudiating the belief of an anthropomorphic God who took an interest in human affairs. It is against divination, gut feeling, mysticism, revelation, faith, dogma, or authority. Examples of Enlightenment thinkers would be Immanuel Kant, Baruch Spinoza, Thomas Hobbes, David Hume, in some way, or Adam Smith. Now, Pinker further mentioned some more examples of this phenomena that occurred in the Middle Ages. A collective paranoia, where there is the belief of an external force controlling daily life. Whether that be the belief that God's wrath or displeasure is executed in these natural phenomenons like rainstorms, thunder, lightning, wind gusts, solar and lunar eclipse, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, that doesn't really touch upon the deepest aspects of enlightenment. And the core aspect here, which I'm about to mention, of the Enlightenment is achieving reliable knowledge through the methods of science, skepticism, fallibilism, open debate, and empirical testing. Now, all of these does ultimately require the basis of sentientism, the basis that people would acknowledge and understand the well-being of a human being, the well-being of an individual man, whether that be man, women, children, some sort of a secular philosophy or morality, and that is humanism, the third theme of the Enlightenment. At page 10, Pinker mentioned that it is individuals, not groups, who are sentient, who feel pleasure and pain, fulfillment and anguish. The call to liberate the conscience of men from cultural or religious indoctrination, which leads to the moral concern for human beings to universally suffer and flourish. Now, I'm sorry if I didn't really elaborate that clear enough, but what Pinker is essentially trying to say is how he wants to establish the defense of our privilege, of privilege of being a human being, instead of glorifying the tribe, the religion, the culture, which eventually would lead to a collective paranoia or oppression. It starts from the individual man, is what he was trying to say. It is up to the individual man alone to establish what's moral for himself and other people, and through mutual collaboration and through reason, it will construct society into a better place to live. We are endowed with the sentiment of sympathy. Take note of the word sympathy, which they also called benevolence, pity, and commiseration. Given that we are equipped with the capacity to sympathize with others, nothing can prevent the circle of sympathy from expanding from the family and tribe to embrace all of humankind. Particularly as reason, again, take note of that word, goads us into realizing that there can be nothing uniquely deserving about ourselves or any of the groups to which we belong. We are forced into cosmopolitanism. Take note of that word again. Cosmopolitanism. accepting our citizenship in the world. Now, it does sound very reactionary, doesn't it? I mean, why does this, what is this enlightenment? How does it emerge? From what sort of, it does have to emerge from some sort of sentiment, right? It can't be just reason alone, because we human beings, no matter how hard we try to convince ourselves that we're much smarter than the animals, or the creatures around us, we're still very emotionally and instinctively driven creatures, right? We respond to things that cater to our survival. We respond to things that cater to our well being. And sometimes it's true that we cannot trust our senses. And sometimes religion provides the need to control those senses, right? But does science actually teach us how to control ourselves, how to control our greed, our lust? Is it through the development of technology or the development of medicine, schools, institutions? I mean, in a sense, institutions do provide better education. So, in this sense, Pinker is right when he says that improving knowledge, gaining access for children, impoverished people, impoverished kids in developing countries to gain access to these schools, in developed countries like, well, not trying to brag, let's just say Australia or America, the Western countries mostly, it would hone their skills. It would really establish their individuality, their well-being, right? It's a privilege for them to be able to attend these institutions and gain access to this knowledge. Well, that's one interpretation of it, But of course, the debate is that sometimes there's some inserted political correctness or some sort of a secular morality which the kids with religious upbringing, were sort of in conflict with. Their idea was to simply study overseas and get better grades and make their parents happy and to get a good life, but they didn't realize that it would challenge their identity so much when they encounter the situations where their upbringing is in conflict with what's established in the schools, with the ideologies that are established there. So ultimately, science isn't just about physical things. It is also about, it can potentially wage war against those who subconsciously is using it as a device to, I don't know how to put it, to improve their living conditions. Now let's move on to the last part of this talk. So we'll come to the theme of progress, which is the fourth ideal of the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment belief in progress should not be confused with the 19th century romantic belief in mystical forces. Laws, dialectics, struggles, unfoldings, destinies, ages of man, and evolutionary forces that propel mankind ever upward towards utopia. Take note of that word, utopia. Look, I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. I generally, to some degree, am a person who haven't been raised to think that there will always be some transcendental, some sort of, that I don't I'm not the type of person who believes that we can achieve a total transcendence in this world, because no matter how hard we try, we are just always so limited within our emotional and mental capacity. I'm not trying to be a Christian or any some sort of a religious apologist. I'm saying this based on my experience with people, right? Now, I came from a multicultural environment, country, and there is some sort of a collaboration, yes, between the different ethnicities, but at the same time, one is still subordinate to the other. Even though it's not visible, but there is some sort of a silent oppression. So that concludes the first chapter of Pinker's book. Let me know what you think, give some comments, and do continue to follow the rest of the series, because I will be speaking more about Pinker. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. Have a good one.